start. And first is apologies. Have we received any apologies? I wouldn't have thought so.
No apologies, Chair. Everyone's here.
Thank you. Item 2.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry. That's it. Wrong there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fraser.
Not my one.
The problem is there are 3 of you in the same office, and the speakers, the microphones are picking up each other. The speakers are picking up from different microphones. It doesn't work well when you've got it, unless you're on.
Do you want to nip in, Laurie, to Lewis's office?
I'll pop next door, shall I?
Okay.
I think we might have to go down.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll move on with declarations of interest. Is there any declarations of interest? Okay. In that case, we'll move on to the first item, which is item 3, which is on garage rents. And I'd ask Mr. Mitchell to lead off on that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Before you is our proposal for garage and garage site rental costs next year. I don't plan to go into the body of this report in any great detail. What I will say is garages and garage sites in Nairn are generally in good condition with very high levels of occupancy. So we have at 6.3 there on your report, we've illustrated what a 3%, 5% or 7% rent increase will look like. And my recommendation today is to apply a 7% rent increase on our garage and garage site rents next year, with any additional income being used to augment the area repairs budget for our garages. Thank you.
Michael, you're on mute.
Sorry, apologies. A couple of points before I open up to my fellow councillors. Occupancy is very high. There's only 1 unit available. And taking a step back, I looked at this and I thought, basically these garages, very few folk garage their cars these days. These are storage units, and these are very cheap storage units in relation to commercial storage rates. So I look at 7%, which is below the rate of inflation, and I'm very, very keen to raise this by 7% to try and get it more commercial. One thing I would like to know is, Mr. Mitchell, how do we advertise the vacant unit?
We hold a waiting list. There is some demand. Applicants can make the application on the website. So when a unit is vacant, we'll just pick off the waiting list and allocate it to that applicant.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll now go to Vice Chair, Councillor Paul Oldham.
Thank you, Michael. Well, I did have a sort of a meta question before I began about this, which is, do we have a statutory duty to provide garages? I'm interested, especially because I've noticed that the majority of the garages that we're now providing aren't to council tenants. So I'd be interested to know whether that was something we had to provide, and if it wasn't, whether or not it had come to the what's it called, the WhatsApp board to look at the overall, whether or not this is something which as a council we should be providing. I was also interested, I was looking at the figures, whichever way you cut this, it looks like we're going to make about 13,000 gross profit on the year. I was wondering what the net profit on the year was after collection costs, which presumably a reasonable amount of money in this equation. And also looking in the longer term, because that money, you say that that's been ring fenced for garage repairs and future improvements. I was interested to know how much it would cost to replace one garage and roughly how often you'd expect to have to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oldham. Yeah, you make a valid point. The vast majority of units are rented from those that are not council tenants. And I think where perhaps we don't need to provide garages, I think they're often useful for those who perhaps are living in flat accommodation, perhaps don't have the same storage space others might have. So in terms of is it a statutory duty? No, it's not. And again, you've asked some questions around the kind of ongoing use of our garages, and I think it'd be maybe useful to come to a ward business meeting to specifically talk about stock in Nairn, in terms of what ongoing costs will look like. I can't tell you now how much it would cost to replace or remove a garage, but we can certainly look into that in a bit more detail and perhaps look at some of the sites that need some investment, and agree on where that investment might come from. Does that answer some of your points there, Councillor Oldham?
Yes, thank you. I was thinking the redesign board. I couldn't think of what they were thinking of, but it does strike me that, especially if you say it's non-statutory, it's something that maybe the council should consider as a whole, whether or not this is something which we continue to provide. I mean, I think there was talk in the past about selling these off. I can't remember where this was, but it's something which, I mean, the council should at least be considering. Although it sounds, having said that, it sounds like we're making it's cost neutral from the council. So if it genuinely is, and we are covering all our costs, including the officer time, then we should be fine on that. Anyway, that's me done. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Jarvie.
Hello. Thank you for the report, and thanks for that, Jake. Is there a freeze on garage repairs along with the other freeze on certain departments across housing?
No, there's not a freeze on garage repairs. We can still carry out garage repairs
because it comes out of that income. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a huge garage repair budget. And I mentioned there previously, Councillor Jarvie, that the stock is in good condition. But what I'm keen to do is keep it in good condition. So going forward, it's about how we can look at capital works. So we don't need to spend money on kind of response repairs and things. We can take a more kind of strategic approach, if you like, to looking after that stock.
Okay. What percentage of the garages are garages that the council have supplied and garages that's site rented, that people have put a garage there themselves?
So of the 97, the table at 5.1 splits the 97. We have 34 lockups. A lockup, as I refer, is a garage that we provided, and then 63 are sites that we rent, where the applicant puts their own garage on the site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is cheap, as the chair said, for people using as a storage thing. You would not get a storage thing anywhere near that price anywhere in Highland, I reckon. But people do need garages. Maybe we need some more for people with expanding families. You know, your kids take up a lot of space and have items that are large. So yes, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jarvie. I'll move to the Provost. Provost Fraser.
Just a small point, we have to remember that all these garages at one time were used by council tenants. It's just the fact we've sold off a number of the houses. In respect to repairs, I suppose most of our repairs are just asbestos roofs, I think is the main one, getting rid of those. And if there are, as I say, 3 or 4 sites that people can put the garages on if they want to, so I would suggest we just carry on with one of the problems we do have, though, is that if you look at car sizes nowadays, a lot of the cars actually won't go in the garages. You drive in, you may not be able to open the door and get out because of the size of a vehicle. So sometimes the garages aren't suitable. But then again, there are those with pedal cycles and motorbikes and toys for kids. So I would suggest we carry on as normal. I wouldn't really want to increase the charges. I just don't think that's necessary or fair, particularly on families who are using the garages. Okay, thank you.
Members, I think we lost the chair.
Oh.
Doesn't appear to be on the call anymore. Laurie, are you able to advise? And he's back.
My apologies, folks. I just had a slight connection issue. Okay, we'll move to the recommendation. I'm just bringing that up. So the options we have are a 3, a 5, or a 7% increase, and the recommendation is that we go with the 7%. Are we agreed to go with the 7%?
Agreed.
Agreed. Increasing maintenance costs of £5 is not much in a year.
Right.
Yep, okay.
That's fine, thank you. We've agreed the recommendation. We'll now move to item 4, which is the housing revenue capital account. And I would say that we're very well briefed here at ward meetings, so we're up to speed and there's no need for us to go into specifics unless there's actual questions that individual members want to ask. So we'll go to Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Good morning, members. I'll just give a very brief update. As Councillor Green says, we had a very substantial debate and discussion at Ward Business in recent times. So I suppose Section 5 of the report gives a brief update on the current year programme, supplemented by Appendix 1. Section 6 of the report just outlines the development of the 23 to 27 programme, and Section 6.7 of that outlines the resources available to the Nairnshire area across the 4-year period from 23 to 27. Specifically, Appendix 2 really gives the outline of what we would recommend the priorities to be across that 4-year period, and just to draw one particular priority out, and that is energy efficiency. So that is the highest percentage we're recommending across the 4-year period, including a continued commitment towards aids and adaptations work that members will note that just at the top of Appendix 2 there, which is just really works to assist in trying to keep people in their homes for longer. So happy to take any specific questions that members may have.
Okay, I'll open this up and I'll go to Councillor Jarvie.
Okay, thank you, Officer Henderson, for that, and good to see that there's a budget and assisting people in their homes and making life more accessible, more pleasant for everyone. That's long may that continue, and really, I can't remember the other bit. Hopefully interest and loans will reduce. That will free up some more money across the Highlands, which would be good to see if the economy improves. Otherwise, that's it. That's fine. And note and agree.
Okay, I'll go to Provost Fraser.
That's it. No, I'm fine with that. It's a healthy report. I think we'll just move forward and continue to keep our council's houses the highest standard possible. Okay, thanks for that.
Fraser, thank you, Councillor Fraser. We'll move to Councillor Oldham.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Jonathan, I do have a query. We went to a several central meeting of the Queen's Park Residents Association recently. And they were expressing concerns that when damage was being done by tenants to properties, in particular kitchens, whether or not that was impacting on the ability for them to get their kitchens redone. Now, I'm kind of assuming that the repairs are like come out of revenue rather than capital. I wonder whether you could confirm that for the benefit of those residents.
Thanks, Councillor Oldham. Yeah, if repairs are required, ongoing repairs are a revenue expenditure. Whereas what we're discussing now is obviously a capital expenditure. But just to say, if there are any repairs which are damage which have been caused by tenants, then obviously we'd seek to recharge those costs to tenants. It is a complicated one, and I can understand where they're coming from there. But yeah, there is that distinction between the two.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Oldham. We'll now move to the recommendations, and members are asked to note points 1, 2 and 4, and to agree point 3, which is the proposed investment priorities in the HRA capital programme for Nairnshire 2023-27 as set out in appendix. Members, do we note and agree?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll now move on to 5, which is the Area Roads Capital Programme, and we'll hear from Mr. Porteous. Mr. Porteous.
Good morning, members. Chairman, thank you. Yes, so this is the Area Roads Capital Programme for the next financial year, 2022-23. So members are asked to approve the programme. Again, we took this to the ward business meeting recently, so hopefully don't need to go through the whole report. But basically, the full capital programme is still unknown, obviously, for next year. So this programme is explained. The report explains that. The 2 appendices contained within the report are firstly last year's capital budget and for comparison, and that's the basis that we've worked on up until now for next year, although that could change and is expected to change. So in the appendix 2 is our scheme builder report, which highlights all the priority sections of road and the value that they amount to. And the roads that are highlighted in that appendix are primarily the main roads, which and primarily the A939, the B9090 and the B9007. So those will be the priorities for spending next year when it comes to surfacing and surface dressing. And other than that, it's probably better just to invite questions, I think, from members, and hopefully the rest of the report is self-explanatory. Thank you.
Muted again, Michael.
Sorry, thank you. I think the salient point here is 5.1. The local allocations for the capital budget for 23-24 remain to be established. So we don't know what money we're going to be allocated. So consequently, the 23-24 capital roads programme is based on the previous year's budget. And should the 23-24 budget differ from the 22-23, then the programme will be adjusted. As Mr. Porteous said, he comes and gives us very regular detailed briefings at the ward meeting, so we're well on top of this situation, and we just wait to see what the funding allocation will be. So on that basis, I'll hand over to Provost Fraser.
No, no comment. I'm fine. I'm happy with what's been presented. Just press on with it, and let's hope that the budget stands firm.
Okay, thank you, Provost. Will Councillor Jarvie?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Officer Porteous, and welcome your updates when you get them to the ward business meeting, as your information's obviously invaluable and lets us flag things up that the public have raised with us. So thank you for that, and look forward to your further engagement with issues we've raised. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jarvie. We'll go to Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Richard, I think we've been through this, so it's fine. I mean, one thing I would say, just for the record, I was out driving around the Highlands on Friday, and it's very obvious that we're here and then in Cornwall. You may think we have some bad roads, but blimey, we're in a much better state than places like West of Ross and North Sutherland. I think the repairs that you're proposing are very sensible. My favourite road, the B9 007, is getting some attention, which is grand. So yeah, I've got no problem with this. I think, are we approving this? I can't remember, or just approving. So yes, Mike, I'm happy to approve this.
Thank you, Councillor Oldham. Councillor Jarvie.
I commented already and look forward to supporting us engaging about the Codder area issues that have been raised there. And the back roads, good to see them improve. They were certainly needing that. Maybe a couple of the lay-bys maybe need updated and looked at coming in on that Cleppington to the railway station back road. They're a bit gouged out. It was quite hazardous with the huge amount of ice sitting at the side. You actually couldn't go into it. But that's just our Highland weather, a hazard we all need to deal with. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvie. So we've been asked to approve the budget. Could we approve that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 6, which is the Community Regeneration Fund and the assessment of applications. And if we go to Ms. Cameron.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. We are bringing 4 applications to you today for a decision on an award from Community Regeneration Funding. So I'll just give some brief background first of all. Within the Nairnshire area, Community Regeneration Funding is made up of 2 different funding streams. There's the Place-Based Investment Programme, where you have an allocation of £68,160. And there's the Highland Coastal Communities Fund, where the current available allocation is £15,296. So in total today, members have £83,456 available to award. The 4 applications that we're bringing to you today total £124,997. So you'll be aware that the requests are for more than what is available. But on that point, I would just draw members' attention to the reference CRF 1011 Nairn Beach Access Platform. We have a reduced request there from the amount that was in the original papers that were circulated. So the revised request to committee for that project is for £28,666. And that's because 50% of that grant has been awarded through another funding stream that comes under the Community Regeneration Funding umbrella. It's the community-led local development money, which is dealt with by the local action group. So they have approved 50% towards that project, thus reducing your request. So just on that note, again, I would just make members aware that under that funding stream within the Nairnshire area, there were another 4 projects approved by the local action group, or sorry, another 3 on top of that one. So 50% of the request was approved for the access platform, but 100% funding was also approved by the local action group for a feasibility study to happen at the Watermill Foundation, and 2 project applications that were submitted by Nairn Bid, one for Riverside Benches and one for the Nairn Brae feasibility study. So that's a total investment in the Nairnshire area from the community-led local development funding of just over £93,000. And as I say, that's the stream of funding that sits out with members' control and sits with the local action group. So back to the projects we're asking you to consider today. We have provided a RAG summary assessment to help you in your thinking. My team have undertaken that, and it's just important to note that we do that based on the information that's provided to us through the application process. So it's a reflection of what the applicants have told us during the process. So an amber or a red status isn't a reflection of the value of the project. It just perhaps means there's some outstanding issues, for example, match funding not secured, or it may just be that there was only brief information given in the application form. So all 4 projects that are presented to you today are eligible, and anything that's been given a RAG status of amber, well, I think there's only ambers there, It would probably just mean that we would want to address these concerns if members wish to approve the project by attaching technical conditions to any funding approval. So the decision members are being asked to make today is firstly whether you wish to approve, defer or reject the applications. And in the case of approvals, we would ask you to confirm the grant amount you would wish to approve, taking into account the amount of funding that's available for award today, and any funding conditions you would want to attach to that approval over and above the technical ones that we would attach arising from the assessments. So I think that's quite a brief summary. I'm happy to answer questions on the applications or more generally on the process. And just, I guess, hand back to you now, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cameron. That's much appreciated. And your work with us has been very much appreciated. You've given us detailed information. You've engaged with the applicants, and we understand the funding situation very, very well. So we're really well informed and able to make a decision. Now, I have recommendations which we've agreed, which I'll put forward for discussion and hopefully approval. But I'll open it up first, and I'll go to Councillor Oldham.
Yeah, Fiona, thanks for that. Can you just confirm, so with the Nairn Beach Access Platform and ramp, we're now talking about 28,666, is that right? Okay,
Yes,
so
that's correct.
so if we take that out in its entirety, that leaves us with 54,790. Michael's nodding. He's
double
yeah,
check
okay.
it, but yes, that
Yeah,
sounds
fine.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
right. Fine. Okay, thank you very much for now. I will go on to come back later on this, so I'll make sure we have the figures right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor Oldham. You're quite right that the reduced application, because we supported the access panel, their application is reduced to 28,666, which allows us to support an additional application with 54,790. So I'll hand over to Councillor Jarvie.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you, Officer Cameron. I totally agree with the Chair. Good engagement with us as councillors at the ward business meetings, advising us how this process works. And all very worthy projects, I may add, very worthy indeed. And that you know, that's a huge difference in the access panel one. So it would be, as that's gone through planning and is well organised, I would like to see that one fully funded. And perhaps the two highest rating ones being the access panel and Team Hamish. So as they seem to be the solid ones, that would be good to go.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jarvie. We'll go to the Provost.
Yep, thank you for that, Chairman. No, I concur with the, oh, hang on a second, let me just turn this echo down. That's it. Should be. No, thank you for that. No, I concur with Councillor Jarvie there, and my support goes to the same projects. Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Fraser. So the proposal in front of us, which I'll put forward for as a recommendation, is that we can't support all projects. We had to make decisions, and based on the information that was provided, and this changed. It's quite a dynamic situation, as highlighted by the access panel coming in with a reduced application. So by supporting the access panel with 28,666, they received the other 50%, which means their project will be 100% funded and they're ready to start. The balance of the money we felt should go to Team Hamish, which is 54,790, because they have fabulous support locally and they have great fundraising capability, capacity, and they would look to raise some more funds and actually get this done. So we can actually fund these projects and get both of them off and running, hopefully. So on that basis, with the recommendation is 28,666 54766 to the access panel and 54790 to Team Hamish. Are we agreed on that?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Michael, I think so on balance. I mean, these are difficult decisions, but we have to do the best we can with the money we've got.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Oldham. I should say that we have supported the bid previously on 2 other applications.
Yes.
So it's not complete loss for them. So that's great. Thank you for that. We'll now move on. And thank you, Ms. Cameron, again. That's very much appreciated. Thank you. So now we'll move on to the Nairn Common Good, and I'll hand over to Mr. Hanna for a brief note.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Yeah, I'll just quickly run through the main points of this report. The report presents the audited statement of accounts for 21-22 for the Nairn Common Good Fund. It also presents the expenditure monitoring position for the Common Good Fund as at the 31st of December 2022, which is Q3. And the report further sets out the proposed revenue budget for the fund for next financial year, that's 23-24. There's a couple of key points in the report that I would just like to draw members' attention to. Within section 4 at 4.3, where income for 21-22 is set out, members will note that that income is primarily from lettings and short-term lets, and it's stated at 4.3.2 that income from lettings was only £389 in 2021, and income, as you would expect, is normally significantly higher. It was low that year as a result of the COVID restrictions on activities in the links, such as the Nairn Games. Next point I really wanted to draw members' attention to was at section 5 in the 22-23 Q3 monitoring statement. Income received to date relates to property rentals, which is anticipated to be 12,000 higher than budget this year due to some lease amendments and also to an increase in income that was budgeted for in respect of the invitation to pay car parking scheme. So some good news there. Then at section 5.3, members will note the last paragraph in 5.3 states that expenditure is forecast to be 17,000 higher than on budget for 22-23. That's due to some unbudgeted expenditure in respect of support for the Nairn Book and Arts Festival and the Christmas lights, as previously agreed at committee, and also some additional charges in relation to the consultations in relation to the Sandown lands, some general maintenance costs, and also projected expenditure in relation to the invitation to pay parking scheme. Lastly, members, there are some items under the proposed budget at section 6 that I'd just like to draw your attention to. At 6.4.4, we're proposing in next year's budget a £10,000 Nairnshire events budget in the Common Good, as agreed previously at committee, or previously requested at committee rather. And then at 6.4.5, we're proposing a staff line budget of 22,000 for a part-time Nairn Common Good Fund development officer to progress a lot of the work that you're keen to develop in the Common Good. That's the main points of the report that I wanted to highlight, Chair, and I'm very happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you for that. I intend to deal with this in 2 ways. I'm going to split the report into the current year, which is 22-23, and then look to the future direction, which will be in 23-24. And before I open up to members, there's 2 points regarding the current year, 22-23. Members are now receiving monthly reports with vast spreadsheets that itemise every cost with everything broken down, which enables us to see how every penny is raised and spent. We have the information in front of us and it's making decisions so much easier. The second point I would make is we now receive 100%, yes, 100% of the funds generated from the invitation to pay, less the cost of 3,000, which will give us a very large surplus of circa 80,000, 87,000. We will be carrying out a review of parking and charges where everyone will be given the opportunity to contribute to the debate. So on that basis, I'll hand over firstly to the Vice Chair, Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I had a couple of questions in relation to that. And actually, we're budgeting £3,000 both in 22-23 and 23-24. Those are still wet finger in the air, I believe. Lewis, I believe we have the confirmed figures for that, yeah?
That's correct. In respect of the invitation to pay parking scheme, those are forecasted figures, so we will get more accurate expenditure figures toward the end of the financial year.
Right, okay. And Chair, you're talking about a consultation about parking. I thought we'd agreed not to have a consultation about parking, that we were going to review it each year, and that was it. You're muted, sir. You're still muted.
There will be a consultation coming, and there will be a review of parking. I think it would be odd if we didn't get some feedback from some of the stakeholders. So I take your point. The ultimate decision lies with us. Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Oldham.
Sorry, I have one more question. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Michael.
Apologies.
Just because I know questions are going to be asked. On the staff, the member of staff we're proposing to employ for the next 2 years, the budget is 22,000. What does that actually mean in real terms, in terms of the salary of the member of staff? Because that presumably includes some employment costs and pension costs and national insurance employers and stuff like that. We've got a wet finger at least for that figure?
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Oldham. I'll ask Mr. Hanna to address the specifics.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, Councillor Oldham, there's a part-time 17.5-hour post at the council graded HC8 is what we're budgeting for. And you're quite correct that £22,000 is higher than you would expect to see perhaps, but that's as a result of on costs in relation to national insurance, employer side contributions, and also pension contributions as well, which takes it up to the 22,000.
Okay, thank you. Are you satisfied there, Councillor Oldham?
Yeah, it's fine. You don't have to have a figure for HCA to hand you if I say me looking it up.
Okay, I missed that. Sorry, Councillor Oldham.
Lewis was saying it's HC8 is the scale that's been used. I just wonder whether he happened to have a figure available for that. Save me looking it up later.
I'm happy to share that, Chair. I don't have it right at my fingertips this second, but I'll email members that detail when we come out of committee.
Okay, thank you for that. We're still dealing with the current year, 2022-23. I was going to come on to the future, which would have covered the new position, but I'll go to Councillor Jarvie.
I'm happy with that if on the current year, as you're doing it in 2 bits. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jarvie. I'll go to the Provost Fraser.
I'm also quite happy with it. The only thing is I look forward to seeing the a review on the parking. Just to iron out a few problems that we've been having with the parking. That's fine otherwise. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll now move to the future direction, and that's 2023-24. And there's 2 areas I'd like to highlight. This is really the start of a process whereby the Nairn Common Good Fund will become an increasingly important factor in local matters and developments. And the first step is the creation of an engagement group. That's a group of locals, truly representative group, who will act as a sounding board for the local trustees. Now, as this is a pilot project, we do not need ratification from the Nairnshire Committee, so we can just move forward. And the first meeting, which will be a workshop style, will be held in March, where those invited can discuss the proposals and start to move the project forward. The second point I would make is regarding the appointment of the Nairn Common Good Fund Development Officer. You look at the range of tasks: Nairn Common Good Fund engagement groups, Links Development Plan, Harbour Street, Viewfield Houses, Nairn Common Good events, preparation of Nairn Common Good reports. As the Common Good becomes more active, we need the capacity to move the wide range of projects forward. It's important to note that this is a 2-year post, and we expect that this will be cost neutral, as the officer will raise enough additional income to cover their costs and move the respective projects forward. So that's my take on this. I'm delighted to get the officer appointed. But before that, I will hand over to my colleagues and I will go to Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Mark. I don't think I've got anything to add. I agree with what you're saying.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Oldham. Councillor Jarvie.
Yes, I totally welcome it. There's a lot of very complex issues that we've come across already, and it'd be good, I think, to have a main key person totally tuned into it will move things along swifter and be a key person dealing with it and just make things clearer and be able to respond quicker back to other people. And I welcome that we're having a youth voice as well. There's quite a range of people from across the board, so that makes it fairer all round, and you know, a fair, lots more ideas coming forth and how it's done, and cost effective, I think it'll be, and best value for the common good and protecting it as it should, which is, as councillors, that's part of our duty to ensure that. So to have someone appointed would be an excellent idea, and glad it's been reviewed in a year to see how it goes, and it might be rolled out across Highland. So that would be good to see. I'm sure it will be followed by other areas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jarvie. Just to say that the composition of the engagement group will be up for discussion at the workshop, and there may be additions, deletions, a bit more flexibility to bring folk in. It's for certain specialist areas, so that's very much for discussion at the workshop. So I'll now move to Provost Fraser.
Yep, thank you for that. I did have my concerns to start with the new post that's being created, but I see it's been based here in Nairn, which means we'll have access to it. So I'm quite supportive of all this. So let's hope for a positive result here.
Okay, thank you for that, Provost Fraser. We'll now move to the recommendations. Now, the recommendations are: members are asked to consider and agree the Nairn Common Good Statement of Accounts, consider the discussion of the position of the Nairn Common Good Fund and 2022-23 outturn, and as part of the 23-24 budget, agree the creation of a new part-time officer and to agree the addition of a Common Good events budget line of 10,000. And finally, agree the Common Good Fund budget for 23-24, detailed within the report. Are we agreed?
Yes, agreed.
Agreed, Chair.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, we'll move to item 8. This is circulated for noting the minutes of the meeting of the Nairnshire Committee held on the 15th of November last year, which were approved by the Council on the 8th of December 2022, pages 75 to 81. So, noted.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Now, we're moving to item 9, which is the exclusion of the public, and I think it's worth reading this. The committee is asked to resolve that under section 50A(4) of the Local Government Scotland Act 1973, the public should be excluded from the meeting for the following items on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 6 of part 1 of Schedule 7A of the Act. So on that basis, I'd like to thank those folk that participated, and we'll now move into private session. So thank you for that.